Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist / secular / awesome community. This is episode number 97. We are recording live on May 30th, 2017. Thank you to Pastor Matt Riddle for being on last week, tying ties like a boss and trying to share the somewhat diluted, and that's a good thing, word. Go Cubs. Tonight's guest is extra crazy, good, amazing. There needs to be a female version of Amazeballs, and I'll let my guest come up with that one because that can only go bad places if I keep going that way. Mel Rice is the operations manager of Normalize Atheism, the brains and heart behind the Secular Domestic Violence Survivor Support Network, a real-life Brady Bunch member, and a blue-haired cat lady whose level of craziness will be determined in the next hour. Welcome aboard, and hello, Mel.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And in honor of fellow cat people, I have my wine glass with Fur Papa on it for the listeners.
That's awesome.
I usually drink beer, but it felt like a wine night. I was having some homemade sauce I made yesterday.
Oh, I thought about it, but I gave double red today, so they told me I shouldn't drink after doing that. So better not.
Okay, what is double red?
Instead of giving blood, I give red blood cells. And they actually take, it's a really cool process. It's a machine where they separate your blood and your plasma, the red blood cells and your plasma, and pump the plasma back in your body and just take your red blood cells.
Okay, that's interesting because
yeah, it's really creepy crazy.
My dad does the plasma, and I try because I had a couple of transfusions a long time ago. And I wanted to donate blood. My veins are so bad that they always collapse in the middle of the process. So I don't know, maybe this is better. But now I really, really want to get out of context quotes, but you didn't have a lot of great stuff. But I had one. When you think the term atheism, you automatically think evil. And we'll get to the bottom of that one. So I don't always want to, go down the dark and heavier road, but unfortunately that's the story, a story you have to share, but it's a good one because it's going to help people. So I wondered if you could talk about kind of your past, getting out of a bad marriage and a bad faith system. And I know it's not a short story, but that's okay. It's all about you talking.
Okay. Well, actually, I didn't realize it until this morning, but 4 years ago today was the day that I left, was the day that I took my kids and I left 4 years ago. I got married when I was 19. I had my first daughter when I was 19. It was one of those, your first real boyfriend out of high school, and you have a kid and, you get married way too young type of things. Well, I started seeing that and feeling that, a little bit in the beginning, but, went with it. And after a while, things just got bad. I guess bad's not even the word for it. I will honestly say that the very first time that I ever remember anything physically abusively happening was when I was pregnant for my daughter. He had gotten mad at me for some reason. Now, I will tell you that he is an alcoholic. He is still an alcoholic as far as I know. I try not to talk to him if I don't have to. We do have 3 kids together, so that makes it impossible. But he was an alcoholic, and I'm not saying that that's an excuse for behavior, but that added to it. The majority of I'm not saying the majority, but a lot of domestic violence cases are because of substance abuse, alcoholism, drug use, this was in both cases in mine. I was married for 20 years, pretty close to 20 years. My daughter will be 20 next month, and we were together for about 2 years before I had her. So all in all, the relationship was close to 20 years. I would say the worst of it probably got when he decided that he was going to stay home and be the stay-at-home dad. Now, I don't know if that, demasculated him, if that's the correct word that I'm thinking, that made him feel like, he wasn't providing or, anything like that. But it seemed to get really, really go downhill from there. Very abusive, emotionally, physically, verbally. He was such an angry person. And like I said, he probably still is. I just don't have contact with him if I don't have to. He was a video gamer. He liked to stay up all night and play video games and sleep all day. And when he would finally wake up in the afternoon, he'd pop a beer, jump on the video game system, and start all over again. Now, you had to be quiet. You're going to make noise because that would cause fights. It was pretty much walking on eggshells. My daughter, who, like I said, she's 20 now, I remember her telling me once we left, she said, I kept a diary, and I wish I knew where it was now. She said, but I would keep a diary of every time that you guys would fight. And when it got physical, I would put a star by it. And when she left, when I left, she was probably 17 or 16 or 17. Now, no kid should have to do that. No kid should feel like she has to document what happens to her mom. She was too afraid to have friends come over. She would, if there was a fight going on before she left the house to go out with her friends, she would tell her friends that she wasn't going to go. She would stay in the house so that she could be sure that nothing happened, which no kid should have to do that. No kid should have to do that at all. The kids saw a lot, which turned out to be very devastating to them. 2 of 3 of my kids have been in therapy. My youngest, he's 13 now. He has been diagnosed with ADHD, which of course doesn't stem from the abuse situation, but he has social anxiety disorder, which means he's basically terrified of people. It was just this past year where he was comfortable enough to order for himself in a restaurant. He wouldn't, if he wanted to buy something at the store, one of the exercises that we had was he had to pay for it himself. We'd give him the money and he'd pay for it himself to get the practice in with people. He couldn't do it. He since then has complete 180'd. He failed out of 7th grade and just this year did 7th and 8th grade in half a year because he started therapy. My oldest has not spent any time with her dad. She forfeited the custody from the beginning. She didn't want to have anything to do with him. She completely wrote him off. My middle one now, who will be 16, has done the same thing. She hasn't seen him since before Christmas, except for this weekend. Actually, I feel horrible, but his mom passed away this week. So all 3 kids actually are spending the week there. But it's tragic because my kids' lives and my lives have been interrupted and have been traumatized beyond anything should ever happen to a human because of one person's self-hatred. And I know that's what it was. He disliked himself so much, and he showed that to us. Now, of course, he was never physically violent with any of the kids. I would make sure of that. I would take it first and foremost before he would even go near anybody else. There was a time where I remember he started throwing a fit because he thought his charger to his cell phone was broken, and he thought my daughter did it. And she swore up and down that it wasn't her. And he was screaming and ranting and raving and picking things up, and he would throw things against the wall. And I remember picture frames coming off the wall and shattering, and shelving coming off the wall, and he's just flipping out because someone broke his cell phone charger. And I, of course, stood up for my daughter and said, it was not her. I don't know who it was, but it was not her. So he wanted her to hear me say that. So he grabbed me by the hair and dragged me up the stair steps into her bedroom to scream at both of us. Now, when all was said and done, it wasn't even his charger. His charger was 3 feet away, sitting on a cabinet.
Damn.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And that was a mild time. You know, there was times where when I left 4 years ago today, the first thing I did was I went to my mom's house because I had left my home and didn't know where to go. It was after a physical altercation. He was very much an instigator. So he was one of those people that he would pick a fight and then he would not leave me alone. He would follow me from room to room. That night I tried to go to bed so that he would leave me alone. He would sit on the edge of the bed and just keep belittling me and just saying things. And I would get up and leave the room to try to get away, and he'd follow me. And finally, he was standing inside the bedroom and I was in the hallway. And I'd said to him, please just leave me alone. And he hit me on the side of the head. Now, mind you, that was probably the smallest thing that he'd ever done to me as far as physically. And that's the thing that broke me. That's the thing, you know, I went deaf because, I mean, his favorite thing was to smack on the side of the head, choke, throw things, full beer cans, complete full beer cans, not open. Some of them opened, just, you know, full force throw at me. But this night it was just a smack on the side of the head. And of course I had been hit so many times on the side of my head that the first thing that happens is you instantly go deaf and you start to hear this ringing in your ears. And I remember thinking after I went deaf was now I can get these guys and I can go now. So I grabbed all 3 of my kids who were all in one bedroom because they knew what was going to happen. And I grabbed all 3 of them and I said, come on, let's go. So we gathered what we had on us, our shoes, and went to the car. Now, in the meantime, he's screaming and hollering at us and follows us out to the car. And my kids are in the car, and he blocks me from getting in and won't let us go. And my kids are screaming. This is probably 11:30, midnight-ish, and my kids are screaming at the top of their lungs, you know, let us go, just leave us alone. And finally, he looks at the kids and he says, I bet you think I'm the worst father in the world. And my oldest daughter, who's sitting in the front seat, said, Dad, please just let us go. So he turned around, he let me get in the car, and we drove off. And the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, what did I just do? I have nowhere to go. Now, I have family here in town, and they would be more than happy to have me. I know that now. But at the time, you're brainwashed so much into thinking that, you know, there's nobody else there for you. My mom had a 1-bedroom apartment. I couldn't take all 3 kids there. My dad, you know, worked 60, 70 hours a week and had his own family. You know, I was brainwashed. My ex-husband would always say, well, you know, he doesn't want to have anything to do with you because he has his own family now. Well, when you hear those things so much, you tend to believe it, especially when you do visit them and you're constantly called upon, when are you coming home? When are you coming home? When are you coming home? You need to come home. You need to come home. You don't even get to spend as much time with them as you want to. So you're ingrained in that thinking, you know, well, they really don't want to have anything to do with me. So I went to a hotel and I sat in the parking lot and my kids are still, you know, they're screaming. And I thought, I can spend $60 on a hotel room right now, but I might need that $60 later. What do I do? Do I sleep in my car? Do I go back? I almost went back. And I thought, no, I can't do that. I'm gone. I've finally done it. I need to go. And so I called my mom, and she said, she worked nights, and she said, come to where I am. I will give you my house key, and I will call your cousin, and I will call the police department. They will meet you there. So I went and got her key and went to her house and talked to the police. And of course, they told me because I didn't stay where he was and called the police from my house, that they could not arrest him because I had left, but that it was a good thing that I left.
Yeah, I'd say that is correct.
Yeah. Yes. So, of course, we got to the house. My cousin, who, you know, was like, at the time was like my sister. She was, you know, my best friend. And she came and she stayed with me, and I fielded calls all night. Nobody knew where I was. I didn't call my dad to tell him where I was. I didn't tell anybody, because I knew that he was going to be looking for me, and I didn't want to pull anybody into it. So I just, they can honestly say they don't know where I am if they don't know where I am. So the next morning, I went to the courthouse and filed for a restraining order. And the bailiff that was there, he's such an amazing guy, handed me a card, and he said, call these people right now. They will send an advocate for you, and you will probably get your emergency DVP today, which is domestic violence petition. So a restraining order. And so I called. It was Family Crisis Center that my mom, ironically, had gotten help from several years earlier. And they sent a woman out, wonderful, so kind. I mean, she made me feel amazing, because when you're in that situation, it's hopelessness, because you feel like, you don't know where you're going to be the next 5 minutes. And she helped me fill out the paperwork, and she told me, the different steps and the different things to do. And they granted me a restraining order that minute, as soon as it happened. And they came to my house and removed my ex-husband and said, just get what you need to go right now. You are not allowed back here. And it was pretty rough in between then, of course, because, they don't like to let go. You become property after that. It's not that they care, but especially the kids, you become property. And it's not that they necessarily want you, but they don't want anybody else to have you either. So it becomes a possessional situation. There were phone calls, and of course those things weren't allowed to happen because of the restraining order. So when I go to the police station, they said, well, he can contact you as long as it has to do with the kids. That's the only way he can contact you. So he would look for every little thing he could that had to do with the kids, so that he could call me, or that he could text me, or, he never showed up at my house. But there was a lot of calls and texts and different things like that. And one, I quit talking to him at one point, quit answering him, because I was tired of dealing with it. And he started getting angry and said, when I go to court, I'm going to tell them, you trapped me in the room that night. That's why I had to do what I did, because you trapped me in the room. Really? You admitted to every single thing in court that you did. When the judge asked me, what has he done recently, and what has happened that made you fear for your life? I spilled everything that I could remember. There was a time where he held me down on the bed and with his knees on my arms and punched me in my face until I was bloody. He admitted to doing that. He admitted to my son being so scared of him that when he fell off of a couch and cracked his head off a tile floor, he was afraid to tell him, because he was afraid he would get in trouble. He did not deny any of that, but now all of a sudden, I blocked him in the room, and it's all my fault. And in the back of your head, you worry. When you're an abuse victim, you worry, because, the gaslighting that you've endured so much for that whole entire time, the first thing you think is, oh, are they really going to believe me, because I have no proof? I'd gone to the hospital many times, but I always lied about why I was going. When I'd sprained my neck, I told them I didn't remember what I did. Or, I went because I had a miscarriage and I had a black eye, a fresh black eye. And when they questioned me, I was wrestling and my glasses gave me a black eye. I would always lie about it. I had no proof, because when you're in that situation, you lie about it. So you don't want to find out, because if someone finds out, it makes it worse. Makes it 100 times worse. But 4 years ago today, I left. March 31st, almost the next year, divorce was final. And everybody's doing better. We're doing better. There's still, some rough patchy bits, but yeah, and actually it's amazing, because I like to tell my story, not because it's so traumatic, but because I feel like it'll help people. And today was one of those things because when I went to do the double reds, the lady was taking the needle out of my arm, and she saw my tattoos, and I have bird cage and the birds, and the bird is coming out of the bird cage, but it's on separate arms. And she said, that's a really cool tattoo. She said, my daughter's getting a divorce. That would be really nice for her. And I said, well, I was in an abusive relationship. That's why I got mine. She started talking to me about her daughter, and she was going through the same thing. And she had filed for divorce in 2005. And the way things that had been going for her and the pushback that her ex was giving her, the divorce still is not final. So I gave her the information that I had that helped me. My lawyer was free through the advocacy program at the center where I went. It was really nice. The only thing I had to pay for was the filing fee. Everything for me was completely 100% because the lawyer I had specialized in domestic violence cases. So, I gave her the information that I had, and when I was leaving, she said, thank you so much. That really helps me, and I'm so glad you got out. And that makes me feel amazing, because as much as painful as it is to talk about it, and as weird as it feels to talk about it, and as paranoid that I get that people are not going to believe my story, stories like that make me want to do it all over again, because I just possibly helped somebody. Makes me feel good.
Well, I do want to say, and this is from Jeannie in the chat room, happy Freedom Anniversary. We have Dustin Dark in there as well, and I believe Mark Nebo was in there. Not sure if he's still hanging out. He may have just popped in initially to say hi. You two apparently know each other. Anyway.
See my boss.
Well, when did you go from sharing your experience and decide you wanted to start the Secular Domestic Violence Support Network, and how can people kind of track it down if they need help? Oh,
okay. Well, when I left, I was one of those questioning Christians. I was one of those, how can there be a God if he allows someone like me to go through the stuff that I've gone through? When there would be fights, I would lock myself in the bathroom to get away, and I would literally sit in the bathtub, and with no water, mind you, but sitting completely clothed in the bathtub, crying out to a God, help me. What have I done completely wrong? What do I need to do to make this better? Why is this happening to me? I was a Sunday school teacher. I was a children's church leader. I was chairman of boards. I was a Bible school coordinator. I thought was the perfect Christian. I stayed in a marriage because the Bible said I had to. I read the book, The Power of a Praying Wife, because I thought prayers would heal my husband. I was the typical biblical Christian. I did everything I thought that I was supposed to do. So when I left that marriage, I thought, is it me, or is there just no God? So I started questioning things, and there was no resources for me. The only thing that there was, like I said, the Family Crisis Center, but they were pretty secular. They weren't, they didn't offer to pray for me or anything like that. But the majority of the things when I've done research are very non-secular. I mean, they're very religious. And it wasn't until I started dating my husband that I got a lot of my questions answered, because he was an atheist. He had been for years. And our first date, he asked me, where do you stand on religion? And I said, to be honest, I don't know, because of the stuff that I've gone through. I feel like if there was a God, why would he make me suffer in this way? So, the more that I researched about it, I thought, there are probably a ton of people like me that don't have anyone to talk to about this. So about 2 years ago, I actually started the Facebook group about 2 years ago, and I had one member, because at the time I didn't know how to promote it. I didn't know how to talk about it, because, I was still kind of inside myself. I didn't talk about it very much. A lot of his family That's really loud. I'm sorry if you hear that. It must be a murderer somewhere. But a lot of his family, I mean, this is a small town. You know, when I had left, I instantly became the bad person. I was the liar. I was the one, how dare you? You know, his mom confronted my mom, you know, at the courthouse, asking her what did she do wrong, because she thought it was something that she done. No. It's so, you know, I was very sheepish about coming out because I didn't want anyone to think bad of me. I didn't want people to think that I was lying. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings, because there's a lot of stuff that people just don't know that happened. There's to this day stuff I've never even told my husband because I can't bring myself to talk about it. So when I did Chris Watson's podcast and talked about it for the first time publicly that I talked about it and told my story, I felt like this, they say a weight lifts off you. It did. And, you know, I told him that I would love to have a place where secular people could go and get the support that they need, kind of like a recovering from religion, but for domestic violence survivors, because I'll pray for you just doesn't help someone like me. It doesn't work. You know, I need the resources. I need to know where to go if, you know, I'm being harassed, or, you know, I need to know what procedures I can go through if my court order is violated, or, you know, where I can go for help if I leave, you know, resources, things like that. I don't need someone to say, well, you're broken. You need God to heal you. No, I did that myself. I fixed myself. I got out myself. I saved myself. I saved my kids. I didn't need help from a God. I was capable of doing that myself. So I started talking about the Facebook group, and then I did No Religion Required and talked about it. And then it kind of blew up from there. So I'd gotten probably about 60 or 70 people that joined the group just right after that. So, and it's been pretty good. I actually had people got, and it's not exactly even a place where it's strictly for resources. It's for people that just want to talk, because it's a private group. If you're having a bad day, and we all still have bad days, 4 years later, I mean, I'm triggered by the smallest things, noises, sudden noises, you know, and I just get in a funk the rest of the day. It's strange, but it's just sudden movements, you know, things like that. And it's a place for you to go and to talk to somebody else and say, hey, I'm having this really bad day. What does anybody else do to help them get through if they've had the same thing happen to them? And I guarantee you're not going to get a comment that says, praying for you, because that doesn't help. It doesn't make you feel better. And for the people that it does make feel better, placebo is huge. You know, placebo is a very huge thing. It's going to make you feel better if you think that it's going to make you feel better. But if you know, if you believe that there is no God, if you don't believe that there's a God, it's not going to help you. So you need people around you that think the same way as you, that can help you in that way.
And I'm glad it's available for people, because it's not even in the same ballpark, the same planet to be able to sometimes just openly talk about atheism and not worry about who might be looking over your shoulder and having these private groups. So I'm glad that that's available. I had to get through your story, and now I want to do my first live read. So apologies, and this is going to sound really trite after what we just heard.
No.
To the fucktard who ripped off my flying spaghetti monster magnet from the back of my car, I hope you sit down sideways on one of those spiky crucifixes that must be what tattoo artists use for training purposes. I kid. Bless you, and keep being tolerant. To help express my anger at the first experience I had of faith-based vandalism, I have to go to my happy place, which on July 22nd of this year will be in Chattanooga. Secular Saturday. The brains, brawn, and beer of Scenic City skeptics are putting together a one-day conference. I'll be talking at some kind of podcast thing and probably providing much in the way of suds. Details available in the show notes. So now that I've lost my flying spaghetti monster, should I replace it with an invisible pink unicorn? Because that's a nod right there for the audio people. Let's transition to another important topic that you want to talk about tonight. Normalize atheism. Now, when I first saw this hashtag, I thought to myself, do atheists really want to be normal? Some of us are a little bit off center. So what is the Normalize Atheism campaign, and how can people get involved or help?
I'm so glad you asked. The Normalize Atheism campaign is the brainchild of Mr. Mark Nebo. He's pretty awesome. In 2014, he heard a speech David Silverman did, my man crush. Oh gosh, she's amazing. About using the term atheist and how you should not be afraid to use it. Which I totally agree. Here's why. Well, let me finish one thing first. He started in 2014, and between then and now, he snagged up Steve Shives and Sincere Carabo to be managing partners, and then snagged me up a couple months ago to be the social network manager, which meant I was in charge of Facebook and Twitter, which was so much fun. I love doing it. Basically, all Normalize Atheism is that we just want to make the term atheism as normal as any other position on religion. The only difference between a person that's an atheist and a person that believes in a God is that we believe in one less God than they do. The definition of atheist is the lack of belief in a deity or deities. That's it. So if you don't believe in a God, you're an atheist. Shout that stuff out, because there's no shame in that. We need to take the stigma and the stereotype out of that word. There's way too much. When I did Paleo Radio, Jeremiah and I were talking about a person he did a talk with, actually did some research on what people thought about people when they found out they were atheists. And one of the topics that they did a poll on was, who would you rather have babysit your children, a rapist or an atheist? And the results were not promising for an atheist.
We charge more. Sorry.
Yeah, that's true. We do.
And we might eat the kid, but
oh yeah,
they have to be
I
in
forgot about the
season.
eating part. Yeah,
There's barbecue sauce to continue. You
Sweet
got to
baby
slow
rays
cook.
is just, I know. but in all
We're
seriousness,
the worst. We're already making our own case. Yeah, we talk about eating babies. We're normal.
That's it. But I mean, I like to live my life to where if someone finds out I'm an atheist, it completely shocks them, and then be like, there you go. I use the term atheist loud and proud because the only descriptor is that I don't believe in a deity, period. That's it. Who you are outside of that determines who you are. There are good Christians and bad Christians. There are good Muslims and there are radical Muslims. There are good people and bad people, regardless of your walk in life. There are good atheists and there are bad atheists. We all know this. Who you are outside of that term determines who you are, not that term. We need to make it a little more normal. It's kind of like when people say, not all Muslims are terrorists, but all terrorists are Muslim. No. We are the first people to stand on the front lines and say, why are we banning people from coming into our country just because of a few bad apples? To me, it's the same reasoning with the term atheist. We're not all horrible people. There's going to be some where, just the same as there's going to be some Christians that are unfavorable. Who you are outside that term makes who you are, not the term itself. And to me, I want to prove the stereotype wrong. So I know, and I said this before, it sounds Christian-y, but you live your life how you want people to see you. And I I want people to look at me and be like, wow, I didn't know that you were an atheist. And then that starts the conversation. Well, why would you say that? Then your conversation starts. Education. That's huge. That's so important. That's why we love to push the hashtag Normalize Atheism, the shirts, the selfies that we do, because somebody's going to ask you what that hashtag means, and there's your opportunity for education. It's perfect.
We eat babies and watch Star Trek now.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of something smarty, but I couldn't get it. Sorry.
That's okay. Sometimes it just doesn't roll off the tongue as well. Do you think that? And this is, I actually found a debate from like 2014, and it was Paul Sading and Mark debating about normalized atheism. And Paul's point of view, I didn't really get too far through it, was that this actually might turn people off. Do you think it's the hashtag that would turn people off, or do you think just some people are going to be turned off by atheism no matter what you say or do?
Well, I think the term atheist, if somebody has that mindset that atheists are satanic, blood drinking people, I mean, there's how can I say this very nicely? Cognitive dissonance is a bitch. I'm sorry if I wasn't supposed to say that word, but when somebody
I did say fucktard like 10
okay,
minutes
well,
ago,
she just did say that. That's right. Sorry.
I should let guests know before. I kind of let them lead in language, but I already read that line, so I'm out.
Well,
so feel free. It's whatever you're comfortable with, really.
Okay. Okay. Good.
To curse to force it, but if it's natural, just go with it.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So if people already have that mindset, it's going to be very difficult to change their minds. It is. I mean, we see the same thing with religion. You have so many people that are terrified of Muslims because of the radical few. People, if they think that all atheists are baby-eating, blood-drinking, Satan worshipers, then, it's going to be very difficult to change their mind. That's why I am very much in support for spreading the hashtag so that people will ask me about it. And kindness. Be nice. Don't prove the stereotype right. Seriously, if you want someone to take you seriously, be nice, be kind. I'm not saying don't be a doormat. If Christians come up to you and just completely bash you, sometimes kindness does kill. There's been times where I've been in conversations with Christians and just me being kind completely throws them off. They're like, wow, this has been an amazing discussion, because normally atheists are bashing their religion up and down all over the place. As much as I would like to say that, because, I've read the Bible, but, you're not going to start a decent adult conversation, and you're not going to have that education, and you're not going to normalize anything if you're hateful and mean about it. You're going to prove the stereotype right, and then they're not going to change their mind.
That's true. I mean, I feel like it's a phase a lot of people have to go through, is the angry atheist, but then some people are just angry people.
Yeah.
And nothing's going to make it any better. And after a while, I mean, last week I had a pastor on, but that's a guy I knew from my other life as a guy who's into fantasy football. So we had this thing in common, and therefore we knew we were decent human beings. But sometimes, the first thing you hear about someone's they're a Christian. Well, I'm actually like, what kind and what flavor of Christian are you? There's a lot of flavors in that ice cream store.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to get past that and sort of go, if someone already knows you and then finds that out, then I mean, wait a second.
Yeah.
My brain is confused.
Exactly. And confuse them. Confuse the crap out of them. I love to do a lot of charity work and benefit work, helping people. Of course, that's the humanist side. That's the person who you are outside of the term atheism. I have worked side by side just a couple years ago. Well, last year, we worked hand in hand, side by side, with a church in our community because a little chickie that she was barely 17 years old had leukemia. So we did 2 separate benefits for her. And we, at our group, our atheist group, worked side by side with them at the benefit. The only people that knew we were atheists were the church. And when people did find out, it was like, wow, this is awesome. This is amazing. It's like you said, if somebody already knows you and knows your character, it's easier for them to, like my parents and my family know I'm an atheist, and it's easier for them to accept me as an atheist because they know who I am. But I like to do more of the benefit stuff I work with churches, and you don't have to be anti-church to help someone else. So that way, when they do find out that you're an atheist, they can be like, wow, maybe you guys aren't as bad as I thought you were. I like that.
That's us. We're not as bad as you think we are. That'd be a t-shirt right there. We're not as bad as you think we are.
Yeah.
Except for the baby eating. That'd be on the back, maybe. Keep that going. So besides, being on every podcast, and this is the last one probably, and doing Facebook, Twitter stuff, what else do you do for Normalize? Or is that covers a lot? Yeah.
Well, the podcasts, I love doing those. Those are fun. I like talking to people. I love people so much. I would love to do a lot more, and this summer I think it'll be a lot easier to get with Mark to do a lot of, we've talked about different ideas and things, because another part of Normalize Atheism, in my opinion, is legislature. I would love to see some advocacy days and some, working with Secular Coalition for America and different things as a group like that, because another part to me of normalizing atheism is normalizing atheism in the government. Because it's not that we want to take, and take God out of the government. We want to make it fair for everybody.
We do.
Yeah, well, we do. Of course we do. That's, that's the ultimate. Well, of course, yeah. But, I always give the example of, the comfortability of my kids, because 2 of the 3 of my kids are atheists. And my oldest is a college student. And I was dropping her off at school one day last year, and there were some people in the quad handing things out. And I looked at her and I said, "Who's that? What are they doing?" And she said, "I don't know." I said, "I think they're giving out Bibles. If they are, get one and call me, because not allowed." So she, of course, went and got one. She had to walk through the quad to get to her class. And she got one, and she called me, and she's like, "Mom, it was so uncomfortable." She's like, "I didn't want to do it." And I said, "Well, you didn't really have to do it if you don't want to." She said, "Well, I just felt really uncomfortable because I felt like I had to take it because they were pushing it on me." That's exactly why. No one should be forced to feel uncomfortable in their own school. No one should be forced to stand for a pledge that they don't want to say God in. People shouldn't be forced to learn about creationism if that's not what they believe. This country was not founded on Christian beliefs. As much as people say that it was, it's not. And in order for there to be inclusion and for this country to not be divided, it needs to be kept completely out, all religion. Because we have the Christians on one side that say, we don't want Sharia law, but then at the same time they say we need to bring the Bible back in school. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't have it either way. You don't want Sharia law, but you want your Bible in school. So if you get your Bible in school, that's opening the door for the Muslims to be able to pray during class. You can't have that. So in all fairness, it's going to benefit you more to keep it completely out. Period. I would love to see that. I would love to see a lot of advocacy days to help with legislation, to get that, to not make us look like we're trying to take away people's freedoms, because we don't want to do that. But at the same time, we want everyone to have the same freedom. And hopefully we can make people understand that they see what they want to see when it comes to that. I don't know if you saw the Dan Barker with that guy that makes weird faces on the
Tucker.
Fox. Oh my God, I couldn't even watch that. It was horrible. I couldn't even watch that. But people automatically see. Oh my gosh.
And like being purposefully dumb.
Yes.
I have to include the link to it because it was basically a case where teachers were teaching first graders about the Bible, but they were doing it after school, but it was being taught by the teachers. And so Tucker's like, it's their free time, it's their freedom. And it's like, no, the kids
are still being paid by the government.
When they tell you something, they believe it. And when they tell them Jesus, you got to believe in Jesus, you're going to burn. Telling a kid that is just awful.
Yeah. First grade. Kids they can't even make their own decisions on what to have for lunch that age.
I mean, if it's such a great message, Christianity, you could just wait till somebody's 18 and they're going to get it instantly because it's that good. It's not. Yeah, if people have to believe it, like my nephews, then you have no choice. And getting out of it is just potentially traumatic and bad. And apparently Jeannie didn't like my shirt idea. That's what you get for having a chat on that thing. You're like, sometimes you look at the chat, but you're like, no, I'm doing an interview. I can't chat. Yeah, it's not good. So since I've derailed us, let's let me do. I get it. Nothing to do with you. It's time for the second live read. I meant to get Mel out of context quotes while listening to her multiple interviews on other shows, including No Religion Required, but the fact is, with No Religion Required, when you're listening to it, they're going to have the best out of context quotes. So during that interview, Bobby C said that he doesn't want to tweet his own horn, and I'm sorry, but you need our seed. Now, whatever Bobby does with his equipment is his own business.
He's got equipment issues all the time.
Yes. Happy birthday, Bobby C. I hope your journey to Yankeeville with the barroom, Miss Ashley and Andy, was a great time. And you know who else needs some love? Marissa McCool had a week about as bad as two white dudes who tried to punk gender studies. She rocks. Her 100th episode is coming up. Buy the shit out of her books. Check out all of her shows. I will link them in the show notes. And if you want to get a fun live read like that, well, join the Patreon Fun Club, patreon.com/Zachrilege. Zachrileg. Of course, Hugh and Teody, two of my Patreons, don't have shows to promote, but we'll still hang out and be friends anyway. So now we get to the part of the show where it's like, hey, here's extra stuff in case I have time to talk about that. I heard a reference on your Paleo Radio interview to you being like a meme master. It was either that or No Religion Required. What's that about? I have never done a meme. I think I've shared them, but I have never gone down that path. How do you do this?
I make them.
You make them?
Yeah, I make them. I actually started probably, and this is the serious, we'll get to the super, super serious part. Before Sammy passed away, Jeremiah's daughter, Sammy, for those that don't know, she had
Tiny Dancer Forever is another hashtag.
Absolutely. I made a ton of memes for promotion for Team Tiny Dancer. And I started way back then, which was sometime last year. And then it just rolled out from there. I just kept doing it. I would do little memes and stuff if they had someone really awesome on the show, or if they, Derek, which is another one of the awesome people on the Paleo team, he would, when Jeremiah would have a Center for Inquiry speech, he would go and take pictures and send me the pictures that looked funny, and I would make memes up and just do silly memes and things like that just to post on Facebook. Fun stuff, really, but it helped with promotion with the show too, so that's where that came from. Just fun stuff.
Yeah, Jeremiah's he's quite the hipster with his dress, but it was you don't. I mean, I'm almost at 100 episodes and sometimes forget that people actually listen and watch the show. And then Jeremiah came up to me during ReasonCon and said that our interview was great. I made him cry twice. I didn't mean to. It's a record, though. Way to go, Jeremiah. And then Andrew Torres came up kind of drunkenly later and, sang my praises, which was kind of nice. So what was the ReasonCon experience for you? I think we're 2 months away or a month. No, it was a month. I think it's a month, but man, it seems so long ago and such a great time and just such a short time because it really is like 24 hours, maybe 36 and you're
out.
Was this the first time you came to this?
Yeah, I went to Reason Rally last year, and I thought, well, this is just going to be a smaller version of Reason Rally. Because when we went to Reason Rally, we met, the dogma debate people there, and Jenica, and a whole bunch of other friends we met there, and just spent the whole day together, and that was amazing. And I thought, well, this is just going to be a smaller version of that, hanging out with the people that Jeremiah and stuff that I'm friends with outside of those things, and. I was so pumped for that because I was so excited to see my friends again. You sound like it's like summer camp. That's exactly what it feels like. When you're a kid and you go to summer camp, you're like, oh my God, I get to see all my friends again. That's what it feels like. And then you get to meet these awesome people that, you've talked to on Facebook or you've been on their podcasts and you finally get to meet them. And it's so awesome and so surreal because I think it was Miss Ashley said on her wrap up when they did after ReasonCon, it's like family. It's, the community is like family. You don't have to worry about hiding, so to speak, your atheism because everybody else is the same as you. You can talk about, like, when I'm at home, I could talk to my husband about this awesome podcast that I just listened to, but I couldn't talk to my sister about it or to my mom about it because they wouldn't know what the heck I was talking about. But, being with a group of people that, think like you and reason like you it's awesome. Just hanging out and, the after party was pretty awesome too. I just, like I said earlier, I just wish it was longer so that we could have talked to more people. I would have loved to be able to just days. It would have been awesome to have days.
It was totally pinballing because the first time I went, I hadn't met anybody there before. And the second time I'd say about 100 of the people I had met or I've interviewed or I've talked to. But in some cases, yeah, you get to say like 10 words. And I think I said hi to you. It might have been it. And that was about it.
Yeah.
And I probably had listened to your interview with Chris that day while I went for a walk. So,
yeah.
I know. Now you're in person, sort of in person, as close as we get. Wait a second. I haven't covered this. How have I not? Now, I heard a dog barking earlier, but this is not about dogs. How did you become the super duper cat lady? What's going on? Can you name all of your cats?
Yes.
And if not, there will be a penalty.
Yes. Okay. Okay, we'll start from the oldest to the youngest. Okay. The oldest is Biggs, Mr. Biggs. He's big and orange. He's 15. The next oldest.
Met him in pre-show, I think.
Well, that was Tyson. Tyson's.
Tyson.
Yeah, that's Tyson.
Oh.
He's the other orange cat. Yeah, there's Tyson. And then there's Isis, who is not named after the radical Islam, Isis the goddess, the Egyptian goddess Isis. Mm-hmm. And then there is Sagan, who, of course, is named after the wonderful Carl Sagan, but she's a she, so her name legally is Carla Sagan. Okay. And then we have the 3 baby cats, which is Satan, which is our little black one, Casper, and Krause, which is my little tabby cat, who's named after Lawrence Krause. And funnily, while we were at ReasonCon, while Lawrence Krause was setting up, we actually, our group had the front row seats. So I told the people that we were with, I said, I'm going to go show him a picture of my cat and say it's named after me. So I did. I walked up on the stage and said, can I show you a picture of my cat? And he said, yeah. I said, this is Krause. And he was like, that's a really cute cat. Too cute to be named Krause. So Krause named after Lawrence Krause. And then we at one time had 5 foster kitties. And I got those probably about a month or so ago. I think it was the weekend after ReasonCon when I had fallen into those because a friend of mine had was driving alongside the road and not on the side of the road, but driving, and pulled over to the side of the road to get something out of her purse, and there was 5 just maybe 2-week-old, barely eyes open kittens alongside the road in the mud. So she had posted on Facebook, does anybody have any nursing moms, or, can you foster? And I said, well, I still have a nursing mom because the kittens that Isis had were eating regular food now. So that would be perfect. So they brought them over. We do have 3 of those left. The others fostered out. And we don't have names for them yet, except for one. We try not to name those because I don't want to get too attached, because I know that they're going to other people's homes. But we do have one we couldn't resist naming because its name is Chamberlain, because it will sit on your lap and go, like Chamberlain from the Dark Crystal, the Skeksis. So we did name him Chamberlain because he actually makes that noise, and he'll answer you. If you do it to him, he'll answer you back. So right now I think that's all we have.
That's all. Well, I think for about 5 minutes, one of mine was yelling outside. Scatman and Soy, and Scatman doesn't fully meow. He kind of goes, makes noises. And they're sad because their mom isn't here. And cat daddy, I tell you, it's a tough job. It's why I'm,
Yeah, you got. Yeah, I hear you.
Yep, it is true.
And I'm telling you, if anybody's ever fostered before, it's so rewarding that you really should do it. We started the foster because of course, we didn't want them to die because there were 5, and they were gorgeous, cute little kittens, and they took to the nursing mama pretty good. And after a while, she decided she'd had enough of that. So I started bottle feeding them. And when you bottle feed baby cats, they instantly attach to you like your mama. So I can go nowhere without them now. Literally, if I'm sleeping, I've had to sleep on the couch many, many, many nights because they will climb up and sit on my chest to sleep. And I can't put them down because they come right back up.
To the food provider.
Yeah.
I like that person.
Exactly. I mean, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll have 4 of them around my neck. And they're eating regular food now. So they're not taking a bottle anymore, but they still have that I'm still mama. When you come in the house, they all come running to you, and they climb up your pants leg clear up to your chest. I mean, your mama. It's just like so rewarding because it's almost like they know how much you've helped them. It's awesome. It feels good.
Yeah, I think you might bond more if you get them younger, because my wife got her initial 2 cats. I don't even know, they were maybe 4 weeks old. Like, they were younger than they usually are when you get them, and that cat just stayed on her neck, even though he was 1 pound when she got her, and he was 15 pounds. Later, he still thought he was a kitten, and he still fit. So that's the way it worked. And these cats we have are a little less, they'll jump on you, but they don't cling.
Yeah.
They kind of come to see you and visit and check you out and go, all right, that's cool, let's move on. Nothing to see here. So before we call it a night, is there anything I didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
I don't think so. Just make sure that if you're interested in volunteering, because I know you asked that, and I think I forgot to answer. If you want to volunteer with the campaign, we would always love people to volunteer. All they have to do is message me directly on Facebook, Mel Rice. It's easy to find. And we do have a volunteer group. We'll get you added to that. And use the hashtag. It's awesome to use. We do have selfie times. We're going to do another selfie shout out next week. It's pretty awesome, where we take selfies with the hashtag and we post them and they go viral. And a lot of other things. So make sure you like the campaign on Facebook, and like it on Twitter. And I think that's it.
And on Twitter, well, you're paleo_diva, right? So
Yes.
So you're kind of a paleo minion as well?
Yeah,
Paleo minion.
Paleo diva.
Excellent.
That was Jeremiah's terming, so.
Well,
it's stuck.
Jeremiah, the beard abides. I don't really
Yeah.
Throw one, but the rest you can.
Yeah. And if you ever want to know how to take care of that, he's got a tutorial and everything, buddy. He's on it. He's awesome.
I bet. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to track me down, you can follow me on Twitter at Zachrilege, like the Zachrilege Cast page on Facebook, and send all hate mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com, or let me know if there's anybody you want me to get on the show. Got a few nice guests coming up. So thanks to Mel for being on tonight. For the listeners, stay safe. If you need to chat, I'm available. If you're an atheist and feel alone, you are not alone. Reach out. Let's chat and get that human connectiveness that keeps people coming back every Sunday. Stay skeptical. I love all y'all. And I'm going to get a gong someday, I promise.